What about now? Everything's fine on YouTube? Okay, perfect. So how's everyone doing? Hope everyone have a good weekend and we can get started with the weekly outlook. We have one last week for the month of May, so hope to see what opportunities are available for the remaining of the month and then look to capitalize on some of these. I mentioned the dollar pairs, the yen pairs are still going to be my main focus for this week. I'll also talk about gold. I will talk about the indices as well, and crypto continue to be bearish. I'll leave that till last. I don't have too much to talk about them, but I will go through a few of them as well. Okay, so if we're already here, if everyone can see my screen, if everyone can hear me, if everyone can see my drawing as well, and then we can get started. All right. So if you guys live, let me know if you can see my screen, if you can hear me, you can see my drawings, then we can get started. Okay, thank you. Yes, we can. Okay, perfect. So everyone on YouTube is great. Okay, good, 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 good. Good, 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 good. So yeah, let's get started now then. Um, I'm going to start now. Let's go start with dollar index. So let's take a look at dollar index. Okay, so for this week on the dollar index, kind of what I will be looking out for is kind of this area or this area of price action. We can see that we have kind of like a falling wedge kind of structure or descending channel, kind of how you wanna label this, but certainly there is a correction going on here. So my plan here or my what I want to see is this going to be a double bottom? If this is going to be a double bottom for the price, and it looks like we have almost like a mini double bottom here. A confirmation for me still will be kind of seeing how this correction will end up finish. Preferably is this recent double bottom with this kind of higher time frame double bottom. Is it enough for the price to break out, right? We want to have a impulsive breakout followed by correction to go. That's going to at least give us a little bit more strength, a little bit more bullish bias on the dollar pair themselves. And judging by what we are right now, I like how this is clearly a correction, right? We can clearly see there's consolidation here. It's not as some sort of impulsive move like what we are seeing. This to me is more corrective. So patient here is once again the key is just kind of seeing what this area will do. So our bias, at least my bias, is looking for the bullish bias. So I'll be waiting for the bullish bias to break out and continue. Whereas if this correction end up just start falling down, then I'm not interested in selling. I'm not interested in entering any short position because we're still very close to the previous low as well. So even if this drops down and then move down like so, I'm not interested in the sell. I'm not interested in the sell because we're getting so close to the bottom as well. Okay, but first thing first for this week is kind of looking at this area. Is it going to give us some good confirmation here that the dollar may give us more strength, at least push out from this correction here, and then possibly continuation to at least a high here. And that's kind of how we will be looking at for this week for that confirmation on the dollar. Potentially give us more strength in dollar as well, which I'll go over a few possible dollar pairs that I'm looking at for the week ahead. Okay, so that is dollar index, at least for the dollar point of view. Let's take a look into a few dollar pairs and kind of what I see on them. And I gotta say, not much has changed since I guess last week when I did the weekly outlook as well. Not much in terms of movement. They certainly have some lower time frame development, but they haven't really down anything significantly that I will be looking for entries or whatnot. But this week, certainly anything can happen. And this week, we could be developing into that bearish kind of price action that I'm waiting for, potentially to capitalize on a few dollar pairs. So you can see on my right, I have a few dollar pairs I'm going to go over. And I think there's a few opportunities, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna restart my computer. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, guys. For some reason, can you guys hear me now? I restarted my computer, so hopefully that's all good. Is TradingView okay? Is TradingView stream okay? And is YouTube okay? Because my YouTube keep flashing and it's not like it's just keep flashing. I don't know why. But can people see me on YouTube and hear me as well? I just want to make sure that's okay and I can continue. Okay, so it's not flashing on your side, right? TradingView is not working. So I restart that and it looks like it should be okay. TradingView I can see, perfect. YouTube, everything is okay. It's not flashing or anything like that, right? Okay. So YouTube is fine. Okay, sorry guys. I just have to restart it and really click. No, not flashing. Okay, perfect. So let's get started now. So I was talking about Aussie dollar. So let's take a look at a few dollar pair that I will be keeping an eye on. I think Aussie dollar is decent because I still see this area as a potential continuation correction. It's still consolidating. Remember, correction can go on a little bit longer, and as long as it's still in this kind of correctional format, to me, that this is still an impulsive move. This can still be a correction. So same idea, same management, same approach. Wait for the price to break down and look for some sort of continuation. I think that will be a very good potential entry down to the previous low, and then look to see if we can pass this previous low and then continue further. I think I mentioned this as well last week because the whole last week the price kind of just been developing in this area. I recall there was looking like a potential correction here that's going to break out of that larger correction, but it didn't happen. We kind of just have a little bit more development here. It almost look like a head and shoulder now in my eye, but the main thing I want to look for is an actual breakout from the price, right? Because easily price can just bounce off here, push to the top, and then still drop down from here after, and the correction itself just continue to correct, right? So main idea here is look for a correction after we break out and then look for a potential entry down to this previous low. Let's look at Kiwi Dollar. Kiwi Dollar will be relatively the same. And you can see almost like a more bigger head and shoulder now, okay? And it's still in this kind of correction. To me, that this impulsive move is still pretty strong and we're still correcting. And I like how there is a period consolidation here. I think this is a very good sign from the market that there's a few attempts at least to trying to push out of this previous high or this previous high here, but price pretty much failed to do that. There's a few tops here that the price is reacting to. So same approach, same plan is we're gonna see for a clear breakout from the price, continuation correction down to the previous low. Okay, again, last week, similar idea, not much developed here, but this week, same bias, same approach, same management. If I was to look for an entry like this, and look for the bottom here as the first potential target. And if we break out and go continue, I think that's going to be great as well, looking for further downside momentum. Okay, so let's look at a few more other positions. Look at Euro Dollar now. So euro dollar, talk about this as well. It's very similar like dollar index, right? This can be easily as a potential double top in the area. You can really see it's looking very similar kind of price action. This is kind of like a ascending channel moving up. This you can categorize as a ascending channel or even a rising wedge. Whatever it is, it's a reversal correction, just like something like this. So we have a move down, correct, and move down. Whereas this is a move up, but forms into a reversal correction, and it has potential to move down from there. So I will wait for price to actually finish developing here. So we do have price kind of just failed to break the previous high. And if we look closely here, it's almost like that recent double top, very similar like dollar index with the double bottom here on the recent time frame. So very similar kind of price action can happen here. I will be looking to see how it developed in the next couple hours or maybe next day, see if price can break out and then continue down. If this move breaks out and form continuation, this is certainly the first potential target you can look for a target. But I think the second target or the main one will be breaking below here and then pull back and then continuation down to the previous low. Okay, so that's kind of how I will see this. This move to me is still impulsive. This can be just an overall corrective move. Another move down is very possible. And then obviously reevaluate to see what the price will do when we reach this low here. So that is euro dollar. Let's move on to pound dollar now. Let's look on to pound dollar. So pound dollar is going to be, I guess I would say, one of my favorite one to look for a sell. I like the overall price. If we look at overall higher time frame here, I talk about this a few times that the price is looking very similar like this. We're looking very similar kind of price action. This similar ascending channel moving up, similar ascending channel, similar kind of M style pattern in the making as well. It's all at the top of the overall current price action. So when this move happened, right? When this move happened, this is at the top overall structure. It had its own kind of double top here before the move started dropping down. It didn't have to hit the previous high or anything, but it in itself it's forming that ascending channel and M style pattern on a higher time frame for the drop. So we can certainly expect same thing. I think the extra confluence almost to me is this area is pretty much close to this top as well. So essentially it could be a bigger kind of double top or bigger M style pattern. And this right side here is looking very good. If we zoom into the lower time frame here, this is a kind of a lower time frame double top and similar kind of rising wedge kind of structures pushing the price up. And again, I will be looking for a breakout from this overall price. If we can just break out today or tomorrow and then continue down, we'll see how this move goes. If not, then expect this to move one more down or two more, just continue to correct, but still in a corrective kind of price action, then everything is still valid, right? Because we know a correction can go on a little bit longer or longer than what we anticipated to be in. So if it move up correctively a little bit more, but it's still within this double top area, still within this kind of a rising wedge kind of price action, then the bearish move is still valid. When we wait for that confirmation kind of move down from the price and then continuation down, I think that is still the same sell, same valid entry. And if it breaks out, then fall on, we're going to get onto that bearish move afterwards. But first thing first, wait for this area, wait for this overall price action to finish correcting, and then look for a sell if it presents us a correction kind of after breakout entry, and that will look to see how the week brings out to the end. Okay, so that is pound dollar. Again, it's going to be my favorite dollar pair. I think this is just clean kind of price action, even a little bit better than a couple other dollar pairs that I will be looking to pay attention to closely this week ahead. Okay. Any question, guys, on these dollar pairs so far? Any question you guys may have? I think these are the main one I'm going to talk about. I do want to talk about dollar CAD as well. I think dollar CAD could be a lot of potential as well. And if we look at the overall higher time frame, again, what I like about it is this is at the previous low now. and the previous low is rather significant because it was also the previous low here before the move slowly kind of push up. So I certainly can expect some sort of pullback. I can't guarantee or predict this is going to be a move that starts flying off to the top now, but certainly is in need for some sort of reversal price action, at least to the top of this structure here, and then we'll reevaluate to see if this is going to be a breakout continuation or start reversing back down. So on the lower time frame, what I like about it is that originally I had the structure draw like this, almost like an expanding structure, but as the price continued to correct, it almost shows me almost like a descending channel now. So certainly price can continue to correct a little bit longer, let that correct, right? And then wait for the confirmation breakout from this correction. At least it shows us that this correction, this reversal correction, is over. We break out now, and then continuation, and look for a buy to the top of the structure here. That will be a decent risk reward in this case. And then kind of, like I said, reevaluate to see what the price will do when it reaches this area. Okay, so that's kind of how I would look to kind of take advantage of this. I think this is decent price action. I like how there is a higher time frame kind of descending channel moving the price down. So this move down, if it's not followed by some sort of continuation correction to go lower, then because of the higher time frame double bottom, because of the nature of this descending channel, certainly can expect some sort of bullish price action coming in sometimes this week. That's kind of how I would play it. Again, wait for correction is over, because I get these messages a lot where people enter a little bit too quickly. And when they enter too quickly, they pretty much get stuck while the price is correcting, right? This is kind of the mistake I often see some beginner traders make, is they're jumping in the gun. They're getting a little bit FOMO. And they do see the potential move as well, but they're jumping in here or jumping in here before the price finish correcting, and price can correct a little bit longer. So you get if you get tagged in here, and what if the price just continue to correct in a deeper way, and then you get tagged out just to see this move complete and then breakout continuation and push out, and you miss this potential run. Okay, so that's something that needs to work on a psychology, mindset, and motion kind of things. Is just let the price correct, right? Because it's never going to shoot up in a straight line like this. There's always going to be mini corrections along the way, even if you happen to miss the initial run. But even if this bearish move down, you can see there is a few sell opportunity in the middle. So there's always opportunity there. It's just that we don't need to have FOMO, right? We need to wait for price to develop and then give us confirmation for a potential buy. Okay, so these are the few dollars I'm looking at: dollar CAD, pound dollar, euro dollar. I think Aussie dollar and Kiwi dollar need a little bit more work, need a little bit more development. But I think euro dollar, pound dollar and dollar CAD, they're pretty close to be ready. And certainly I will pay pretty good attention to it. Again, you shouldn't be trading all of them, right? I always talk about choose one or two. I think two is probably max, unless you can push some trades into break even or something like that. But don't need to enter all of them, right? Again, it's about controlling your risk management. Don't enter all the dollar pairs, because if they're likely to move, they obviously likely to move together. But if they all continue to drop, then they're likely to continue to drop as well. Okay, so pay attention to that, right? Understanding the risk that you're putting your account at. So let's move on now. Let's move on to some yen pairs now. Yen pairs, again, is my focus for the week ahead. So we'll look at all the yen pairs here. I didn't talk about dollar yen. I'll go back to it once I finish all these yen. But I'll start with Aussie yen here first. Dollar CAD, dollar, do you have a number for the breakout, or is this a visual observation? Yeah, everything you need to wait for is, because I wouldn't know when this correction will finish, so it's best to wait, right? It's not like a signal where we enter, right? Because we need to wait for price to finish correcting, and then we need to break out, because we wouldn't know how far this breakout will be or how big the correction will be, right? So all these are analysis, forecasts, right? And then we wait for price to give us some sort of confirmation. Okay. So let's move on to Aussie Yen now. So Aussie Yen, again, we talked about this last week. Overall price, I think we all agree, or at least we see it similarly, that this potentially is a top. We have an impulsive move, we have a correction here. And if we look closely here, price is already dropping down quite a bit. We're getting to that bottom of this structure now. I think this is really important is that this move is happening, right? We see the bearish move down from the price. We see there's a bigger correction in the middle. So we can certainly expect price to just break out now, which is this would be the first potential target. But once price break out and then form some sort of continuation, certainly can expect another bearish move down to the bottom of this previous low here. And again, there's going to be enough risk reward for you to justify a sell here. Right now, we're getting pretty much close to the bottom here, and this is why Aussie Yen, at least for all the yen pairs, is not going to be my favorite yen pair, just because it hasn't break out of this higher time frame structure. Okay, so certainly, if all the yen pairs push down, and I obviously do expect this to push down as well, but if we're filtering trades, if we're picking the best, one or two, I think waiting for a breakout here will be much more ideal to look for a sell down to the low here. Okay, so moving on to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen is a trade I'm in currently. So I talked about CAD Yen last week. I was in one CAD Yen position that got break even, and this is a second entry now. Overall, on a higher time frame, to me, I like how this is the potential previous top. Certainly, after a continuation correction, in this case, we're supposed to expect more bullish activity or bullish impulsive phases to kick in. But to me, this move up is more corrective. It's more to me as an ascending channel. And this bearish push down from the price could be the first kind of beginning of that bearish run. We could expect this as a bigger head and shoulder as well. And I mentioned this in my recap video, how I entered was looking for this correction to complete. So we have a few swing highs and few swing low after this impulsive move down. We correct, we push to the up again, and then there was a lower time frame reversal correction. So just set an entry order, stop loss above the high, price tag me in, and then, well, price tag me in and then push up right away. But I stay with the trade and just watch the trade run. We'll see how this week goes, or at least the next, when New York sessions start on Monday. That's likely to be when all the trades will have a little bit more momentum, and we'll take it from there. And first target here will be the lows of this ascending channel for about 5.7%. We'll see how the move goes. If we can break below impulsively, then continuation down to the next low. And I talked about this last week. We could just be expecting a bigger kind of head and shoulder and then pull back and then continue down. That's certainly a possibility, especially on the higher time frame. If this move down here and then pull back and then drop down here, then just forming a bigger head and shoulder at the previous high as well, and then expect this move down. But first thing first is to really get this lower time frame move going. If we do see enough momentum, then that can confirm everything I just mentioned. But if not, then we will have to adjust the trade accordingly. If it pushed down halfway and start having reversal price action, then of course we need to manage the trade accordingly, move the stop loss accordingly, and take it from there. So that is CAD Yen. Let's go over a few other yen pairs. I think most of the yen pairs are looking really clean. So let's talk about Swiss yen now. So Swiss yen, if we zoom out here, let me just get my, if we zoom out here on the higher time frame, look where the price is at right now. This is really clean, kind of a parallel channel. We talk about parallel channel, and we talk about how multi-time frame analysis is going to help us here a lot better. We see this kind of ascending channel within this parallel channel after this strong impulsive move, right? So we know how price usually going to form in this kind of scenarios is impulsive move pushing down, a correction, and looking for the next impulsive move down to the low. And all this kind of fits into our plan to look for a potential sell, right? We have a few swing highs and a few swing lows that's already happening. And this last bit of the price is rather corrective moving up. And we're at the top of this area right now. So really careful, really be patient here to be looking for a potential sell. Some people ask me, does it have to be touching the top of the trend line? No, it doesn't have to, at least the way how I see it. I don't, it doesn't necessarily have to touch the top of the trend line. It just has to be in the relatively area. And the most important part is what the price is doing when we reach this area here. So to me, this is almost like another small ascending channel. So this certainly can continue to move onwards, continue to correct a little bit. Let that happen. But the first confirmation will be always that first breakdown for the price and then continuation down. Okay, even down to the bottom of this overall structure here, a smaller ascending channel on a higher time frame, I think there's definitely enough risk reward to sell down to the low. And then same idea, if it breaks out and continue, then we're just gonna be fall on into a bearish kind of price action now. All right. So Swiss yen definitely also looking really clean. It's very similar like Euro yen. I think Swiss yen and Euro yen are very clean. Again, you don't need to choose or you don't need to enter every single one of them. It's about choosing the best one here. So if we look at Euro Yen here on the higher time frame, Euro Yen here on the higher time frame, this is that previous high that the price is currently at. So potentially P a double top here. And if we look at the lower time frame now, lower time frame we have that ascending channel, very steep ascending channel, continue to move the price up, but it's all about what the price is reacting to at the top, right? So I mentioned higher time frame, multi-time frame analysis, we have a correction moving up. And if we look closely here, it's on the lower time frame, there is also kind of another ascending channel moving the price up as well. So again, all these are going to add confluence to a potential entry that you may be looking for. And this bearish move down followed by this correction, and it breaks out. I think this is a very nice kind of breakout of impulse correction, potentially kind of break out and then continue down to the previous low here. So what I would do if I was in this case, if I haven't entered the other yen pairs, then I think this potentially could be an entry, or from the top here as a reversal entry. I think that's fine as well. And looking to see if there's further bearish kind of price action. If it's developing to a little bit more consolidation here, great, right? Because impulse correct, and potentially drop down to the previous low. And all the yen pairs have this potential tendency to fall into a bigger bearish run. If you notice, if you look at Swiss yen, how far is it at the top of the overall price, right? All this is corrected price action, and look how much room we have for the potential downside, and then if they potentially break out. Same thing with Euro Yen here. We're at the top here. If we can break out of this steep ascending channel and then correct, look how much move we have down to the previous low. This is going to be a huge position if you happen to get in. Almost 960 pips, right? So that's a huge run, even if just down to the previous low. Certainly, it won't be in one straight line. As I always say, there's going to be many pullback, correction, pullback, etc. to push the price down. But if you're able to get in from the top, and it's if you have a good management plan to hold it from the top here, then certainly more scale-in opportunity along the way, in my opinion. And you can pretty much turn one potential run into multiple positions that you can capitalize on. All right. Any question, guys, so far on these pairs, or I mean on these yen pairs so far? Let's continue to pound yen. So pound yen is also something that I'd be watching out for. I think pound yen has very nice kind of price action right now, where we're sitting on this particular bigger, higher time frame kind of channel correction. And again, it's how the price is reacting to the top, right? I mentioned it doesn't necessarily have to touch the top of the higher time frame channel, like it doesn't have to hit the top here. It's all about what this area is doing. And if we look into the lower time frame here, I think this is looking pretty clean as a kind of ascending channel. And we push down and then followed by a correction here. So this can certainly be that correction we break out and then continuation to the downside. Looking at it from a top point of view, even entering something like this can give you pretty good risk reward down to the low of this correction. And if we look at the higher time frame here, this is a previous high, a potential previous swing high area the price is reacting. And I like how this potentially could be a channel kind of correction. If this breaks down, followed by a correction outside, then this can be the reversal that we're looking for after this kind of a strong move. Remember, when we see a strong impulsive move, and if it's not followed by continuation correction to go higher, then expect either to form a reversal correction, which is kind of what my bias is or what I'm seeing the market is at this moment, and potentially just fall down and then turn into a bearish kind of price action here. Okay, so that is pound yen, kind of at least how I would see how I will be playing it for this week ahead. If we get more opportunities, if these other yen pairs can at least move to break even or in profit, then certainly entering more yen pairs, I think it's fine as long as that fits your trading plan to put a little bit more risk. But if you do forecast or if you do see most of these yen pairs that have a very good higher time frame bias, higher time frame bearish bias, then certainly manage the trades accordingly and you can capitalize on some of them. Last one is Kiwi Yen. So Kiwi Yen, we also talk about this from last week as well. Very similar like Aussie Yen if we look at the overall price, right? So if we look at Kiwi Yen here, very similar price action. We have this kind of double top in the area. We have this impulsive move followed by this kind of a higher time frame descending channel. And you can see similar price action like Kiwi Dollar. We have almost a head and shoulder. We break down followed by a correction. So I mentioned about the key here is let the price break out because once price can hit the bottom here and then just correct a little bit longer until it breaks out, which is exactly kind of in this case, is that it hit the bottom of this higher time frame channel and it just pushes up, push down, and pushes up. So I wasn't really interested in all these movement, well, the up and down here, but when I do see that clear breakdown from the price, that's kind of exactly what I was waiting for, and I would look for a potential entry and look for the sell down to the previous low. So I was looking at this kind of a flag, kind of a correction after breakout entry that I usually go for. So we know that this is an impulsive move breaking out of that higher time frame ascending channel, and I was waiting to see how this correction will move. I actually got tagged in here, believe it or not, it was by spread. I think it was during somewhere here, just I think right at 1700 GMT or so. I think the pair, I mean, I think the price was as low as somewhere around 26 or something like that. But I got tagged in at 78.20. That sometimes happens. So I had the entry order here already, but if I didn't get tagged in here, I would have get tagged in here anyway. So I didn't think too much about it. But price kind of just hovering around here a little bit during this area. So you can certainly expect price to be forming a correction like this now. I think that's fine as well to see it that way. I entered at the original correction that I saw. Certainly price can evolve into a different correction, but it's the same idea here on the higher time frame. The same bearish bias doesn't change, right? The bias is still there. The breakout is still there. The correction after breakout is still there. And then potentially looking for a sell down to the low. Okay, I think this one's pretty clear. I saw some of you guys also enter this one as well. So I think it's very clean. I will take these kind of entries any day of the week and looking to see how it play out. And again, it's about your risk management. With a 40 pip stop loss to the low here, I can get about 6 to 1. I think that's definitely fit my plan and definitely look for that potential bearish continuation. Especially we recover all this price, right? Look how sharp this impulsive move is. And look how long price took to correct all the way back to the top here. But that just gives us a very good bias that, well, impulse happens, correction happens, we're expecting the next impulse. Okay. Any question, guys, on any of these so far? What time frame do you use to determine if breakout is about to happen? Any lower time frame, so any lower time frame, less than 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, it's all fine. So anything lower time frame, it doesn't have to be a specific time frame, at least the way how I do it. You don't have to wait for a specific time frame. It's how I do it is I divide the lower time frame and higher time frame differently. You can see my chart. On the higher time frame on the bottom here, I stick to daily, weekly, or monthly. I rarely even go to monthly. It's just daily and weekly. And on the lower time frame, it's anything under 4 hour, right? 2 hour, 1 hour, it's all the same. All you're doing is if you're going from 2 hour to 1 hour, you're just getting double amount of candles, right? And if you're going to 30 minutes, you're just getting more candles. But the price action itself is the same. The impulse is the same. The correction is the same. So anything lower time frame, as long as you have a few swing highs and few swing lows, I think that's classified already as a correction. And if you can comfortably enter at these type of breakout positions, that's kind of how I will look to capitalize on these positions. And I always make sure I have enough room for the price to correct if it doesn't start dropping from this case. In this case, it didn't, right? So price kind of pull back and then still kind of reverse. So in this case, I want to make sure my stop loss is at least above the high of that correction, and I'll make sure to leave extra few pips or so for the price to correct. All right, so hope that answers that question. What about best time frame to scalp? I personally don't scalp, but if you're scalping, obviously you want to be using 5 minutes or 1 minute charts or whatever, something like that. But I personally don't scalp, so I can't really tell you too much there. Just understand scalping is more risky. You're taking a lot bigger position perhaps, or you're entering a lot of positions. So risk management is certainly very important in that case. I did go over pound dollar, but I can go over pound dollar really quickly. I talk about pound dollar is going to be my favorite dollar pair to be looking out for. On the higher time frame, it looks really clean from the previous kind of price action as well. Previous price action very similar, and lower time frame looking for this kind of a wedge to either continue to correct or eventually once it finish correcting, break down followed by correction. Something like this that would be very interesting to look for a potential entry. And because the higher time frame looks clean, I want to look for this move down at least to the low. If it breaks out and then correction, then certainly we can fall into a more bearish price action as well in the near future. So those are all the dollar pair. I did talk about CAD Yen. Again, my CAD Yen mentioned about is just waiting for looking at first to see how price will move down to the previous low here after this ascending channel break. And I like this head and shoulder pattern. I like this impulsive move correction and potentially looking for move to break down, push down to this previous low. And again, I mentioned that if we can break this previous low and then continue correct, I expect price to move down to this low here. And then maybe a bigger pullback, a bigger correction to form a head and shoulder pattern on a higher time frame and look for the sell afterwards. Okay, so that's CAD Yen. When do the market opens after the weekend? Just now, it's going to be 21 o'clock GMT on Sunday night. Okay, so if you're looking at GMT time, the market opens at, change it to UTC, it's the same idea as GMT. It's 2100 GMT. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on to a few other pairs. I do want to talk about Euro Aussie and Euro Kiwi. I think there's a lot of us talking about Euro Aussie and Euro Kiwi. And I want to explain a few things here because I get this question through this weekend about this overall correction. Now, if we're looking at it from a higher time frame perspective, you can clearly see that this is a large impulsive move down. This is a continuation correction that leads to another impulsive move to the downside. And we all agree that this impulse, I think there's no question with that. And you can pretty much see this as an impulsive move, and this could be a continuation to go lower. Instead, it didn't do that, right? Instead, we're pretty much reversing back up now. So I think here is where it gets a little bit more tricky, and I want to explain this a little bit more. Is that this potentially is you can classify this as a channel. You can classify this as a flag, more as a channel kind of side. It's a little bit more not parallel as we can see. It's almost like one side is straight and one side is a little bit slanted like this. And usually we fall into some sort of correction like this to go continuation, right? But in this case, it did not. And I think this is a prime example of these type of correction where when the longer, the deeper this goes, the more neutral it goes. What I mean by neutral is usually when we see a bearish move down like this, followed by a correction, we have a more probability of going down, right? But as this correction gets longer and deeper and more lengthier, you can see that the bearish move was no longer there. I think there's a lot of people trying to short here while it's in the correction, which is what I always talk about is don't get trapped in the consolidation, right? Because it hasn't given us any bearish confirmation unless like I see something that breaks down totally followed by a correction, but none of these play out, right? If you can see none of even this area here, when someone was showing me a graph like this, it's like, hey, this looks like a short that you would take. I'm like, well, no, because A, it hasn't break the previous low, and this correction is forming, but it didn't break out, right? So it's not really showing me enough bearish price action. Whereas if we look at the current price action now, after this lengthier kind of correction, we have a push up, we have a correction, we push up totally above this previous high. Remember, I care about all these previous high very importantly because if we can see an impulsive break above this previous high, followed by a correction, which is kind of what I'm seeing here now, certainly is going to prove to me at least the original bearish bias, the original continuation correction that was supposed to go lower is no longer valid, or at least no longer presentable, because now that we're having a reversal impulse, we're having a bullish kind of continuation. So all that to me, from my point of view at least, is showing me a potential bullish run to upside. Okay, so that's kind of how I'm seeing this, or how I am looking at this. It's going to be very similar like Euro Kiwi, because all this is not showing me the bearish buyers originally that we see from the higher time frame. Now there could be a small possibility that this could be evolved into something like this. Let's say we put it this way. Certainly could happen. Don't get me wrong, but because we broke all this previous high, that's kind of how to me that the bullish bias to me is a little bit more stronger at least, and I can see that bullish move to the upside. So we'll see how this week goes. We'll see how this area develop into, and then we'll take it from there. All right, so that's kind of what I see on Euro Aussie. Originally, my Euro Aussie I think was a couple months ago in February. I was already looking at it for more of a bullish bias, but it took so long to finally get to this kind of stage, right? We break out and then it just takes so long to be consolidating here for such a long time before the breakout here. But I reasonably believe the same target, same area is the same area that we should watch out for is the beginning of this kind of a descending structure here. So we break out, we have a correction, we break out again. So likely we can expect this to continue top to the top here eventually. All right. So that's Euro Aussie. Double top. I'm not sure if you're talking about this as a double top. Sure, maybe that's a possibility. But we have to wait for price to evolve into something like this. Potentially move up to the high here. That's certainly possible. But I'm just looking at what is currently is in my eye, right? This is the current price action. We haven't moved up to that high yet, so we're not sure what we will do. But given this kind of given this certain area of how the price is doing and this bullish move to the upside, I do see a little bit more bullish bias currently for the price. So let's move on to Euro Kiwi now. I think Euro Kiwi is very similar like Euro Aussie. It's actually even more clear than Euro Aussie. We talk about Euro Kiwi also had this kind of a same thing, kind of a descending structure pushing down, and I do have a bias at the time to break out and then continue to the previous high here. Very similar like Euro Aussie, it took a lot longer, but you can see that we have a push up, we have a correction here, we push up once again, and pretty much just falls into this larger flag or channel, how you want to call it, but it's certainly a consolidation here, and then we're breaking out now. Certainly you can expect another correction here, and same idea is to push the price up to the previous high here, and that's kind of the same approach or same way I will look for possible entries or look to capitalize on scenarios like this. What's better to Euro Aussie than what Euro Kiwi here is, recall there's a lot of you guys, or I see so many people trying to sell here, right? And I keep telling everyone that, well, if you're looking for sell, once it breaks out here, better wait for a continuation correction to look for the sell down to the previous low. If that doesn't happen, then that means the bearish move isn't there, right? The bearish move isn't enough to break out and continue lower. Whereas I've been always holding this bias of the bullish bias, where I joined that my structure in at this time. I mentioned about my bullish bias is the impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. Okay, so what I like about it now, it's the same thing as Euro Aussie, is we are breaking out of this potential structure. There is a lower time frame continuation, looks like it's developing here. So I do think this is a valid potential move to the upside. And it's same kind of target like Euro Aussie at the beginning of that descending channel that pushes the price down. Definitely has enough room for this upside move as well, depending on how you're looking to enter this. And this is the beginning of, or at least the first potential target, right? The next previous high is all the way up here. So this certainly can be the next move up, right? If you treat this as an impulsive move, this is a correction, and this can certainly break above this high here. And then if it does, followed by continuation, reach to the next high as well, that's certainly a possible, more of a mid to long-term outlook. And this correction here is certainly going to be a bigger correction here after this impulsive move has happened. Okay, so that is Euro Kiwi. Any question on these? Any question on these Euro pairs, Euro Aussie, Euro Kiwi? Yeah, you're welcome. So that's Euro Kiwi. Moving on to pound. I think someone asked me to do pound CAD. I'll do pound CAD. I forgot about that. But let's look at pound Aussie. Some of you guys asking me about pound Aussie as well. So I saw one guy at least was looking for a sell here. I think that's fine. I think at least there is merit for this impulsive move, and this can be some sort of ascending channel. And this is a double top. I think that is a valid entry, or at least a valid potential entry from this point of view. I wasn't too interested in this when we think of it as why, because this ascending channel, or this kind of a structure here at the price, because okay, let me make it bigger here so it's easier to see. Yeah, let me go to the higher time frame. It's a little bit easier to see. I think what I don't like what's going on here is after this impulsive move down and followed by some sort of expanding correction, this move failed to break the low. It failed to break the low here, and instead it just kind of started correcting, move up. Certainly this can be a correction, so an impulse, correction, impulse. But judging by what the price is doing now, this can easily reach back to this high here. Right, reach back to this high. There's still a lot of room for the high here, and I'm not seeing the sell as something that stand out in my face. If we're solely looking at this area and we're ignoring everything else, like we're just solely looking at this area, yeah, sure, this is certainly a potential double top, and there's a ascending channel here. I think that's totally fine. But I think the better off to entry is actually wait for a breakout, right? I saw the entry was maybe somewhere in this area. I think the more safer side is for the price to break out and then followed by a continuation down to the previous low if you're looking for a sell kind of bias. Whereas because the previous high is all the way here, there certainly have more room to the top side. And if this move isn't going to, sorry, if this move didn't continue to the downside, whereas we meet the kind of a bottom here and we start kind of just correcting upwards, there's still a chance that we can just correct all the way up to this top here before the next drop down. Okay, so that to me is as not interesting compared to a couple other ones that we explained today, right? I think uh, Aussie dollar, a few of these dollar pairs, few of these yen pairs, together with Aussie or together with Kiwi, they look a little bit more attractive than pound Aussie in this case. Okay, and that's why I'm not looking to short this. At least if we can hit the top here, and if there's bearish price action, then that would be a different scenario. But for now, I'm not too interested in this particular sell here. Okay. Hello from Chile. Very good channel. Hey, great. Nice to meet you, buddy. Welcome, welcome. So let's continue here. Someone asked about pound CAD, if I can recall. Pound CAD. I'm not too interested. This is kind of similar like last week when I was looking at pound CAD. I personally not seeing too much, at least from my point of view, because price is still in this middle of this larger kind of, you can say this as a pennant almost, or expanding. It's just that after this bearish move down, this overall price is not as clear as something that I will want to see. It's kind of in the middle here right now. Right, we can not see the bottom. We're not seeing the bottom of the structure. We're just kind of in the middle of nowhere, kind of the way how I put it. And all this price action is a little bit not clear. I mean, this is an impulsive move down, sure, but are we followed by continuation to go down lower, or are we following by a reversal kind of price action? This is can be an inverse head and shoulder. It's hard to tell in this area what it's doing, right? So it's not very clear. It's not very right in my face that I can just be like, okay, yeah, I do think this is a more of a buy bias, or this is a more sell bias. To me, it's a little bit more in the middle. So I'm not too interested in, entering any positions like this until a little bit more development. So that's why it's also now my watch list for this week. I'm not seeing too much here, and it would be nice we can see the price approach this low and then kind of reevaluate to see if we're going to have reversals or we're just going to break down and continue. But whereas where the price is at now is kind of in the middle, and I can't really just right away point out I do have a buy bias or I do have a sell bias, and that's why I won't be entering any position here. I want to see a little bit more development here on this particular pair. I just think there's a lot more better pairs like yen pairs or dollar pair that are just much, much more clear and much, much more straight to look for entry. Remember, there's a lot of market, there's a lot of pairs, but we don't have to enter every single one of them, or we don't have to come up with a bias on every single one of them either. Okay, it's okay to be wrong on a particular bias. It's okay to not have a bias when the price hasn't shown us more clearly on what it's doing. Okay, so that's another mindset thing that I thought I explained that clearly. Whereas there's a lot of other pairs where the potential move is much much clearer. Like I can comfortably say I do have a bearish bias or bearish kind of view on this because of the current price action. Whereas other pairs is not as clear to me. All right, so that is wrap up for all the currency pair, guys. Any question on any of the currency pairs before I move on to gold and indices and things like that? Any pairs that you miss that I already talked about? DEX, I'll talk about when I go to indices. I start my real trading tomorrow after 1 month of demo with a mentor. Any advice? I guess my advice would be, I don't know who you learn from, of course. I don't know what strategy or style you plan to trade or use, but um, I would always educate anybody who talk to me is risk management is 101. Make sure you're not over risky, you're not over trading, you're not revenge trading, right? Work on your trading mindset, emotion, and psychology. Again, I'm not sure your mentor talk about trading psychology, which is the most important part as well. You can learn all kinds of strategy or style in the world. Every strategy has its own right to work. But if you can't control your emotion, it really doesn't matter what strategy you use because when you're on a losing streak or when you take a few losses, um, you want to revenge trade your losses and you can throw all your trading plan, your risk management out the window, right? So be careful on that, especially if you're trading real money now. Trading real money is totally different than trading with demo money, like huge difference in terms of emotions, right? You lose money in demo, it's nothing, right? You lose money in real money, that's something that your own money and people, it's like gambling, right? People can take it when they lose money and they're trying to chase back their money, but usually ends up backfiring it and lose more. Okay, so that's something I would suggest you to think about. Dollar peso, sure. I'm not really seeing much on dollar peso actually. So peso here had this almost like a continuation price action, so an impulse and then a continuation price action. I'm not seeing too much here on peso personally. I was originally wanting to see if we're going to get a bullish bias from this point and then go on and continue, but that did not happen. So I'm more on the sideline here waiting to see what the price will develop. This move up to go down almost looks like I said, a correction or a continuation correction. So we don't know if price will continue down to this previous low or anything else. And I don't see much here on the lower time frame either. All I can probably point out is there's a small kind of a descending channel here, but that's certainly not enough for me to start buying here, right? That's not enough confluence here. I need a little bit more price action, preferably some sort of bottom, right? If this move down to here and then a breakout, right? At least there's a reason that will bottom to back you up. Whereas this current one here is may or may not be enough to start pushing into a bullish run here. So that's why also I'm not too interested in this one until a little bit more development from the price. Okay. Yeah, and risk management, of course, everyone trades differently. Your mentor may not trade the same as I do. Of course, everyone has their own strategy and style. Right? They may not just risk 1%. They may not just stick to one or two positions. But that's all up to you and your plan, of course, right? So always have a trading plan. Always have your own management. It's going to be it's what makes traders successful in the long run. Okay. So I'm looking at some question here. Yeah, Kiwi dollar, I briefly went over. So Kiwi dollar, same idea with Aussie dollar is I want to see what price will do. Can we actually break out of this overall consolidation here, break out followed by continuation to go south to the low here. What I like about it at least is that this previous high isn't broken, like it just touched and it pushed down, right? So this can consider as a double top here. And there is this kind of a head and shoulder pattern as well. I want to see this clear breakdown from the price and continue. That's going to be the confirmation here to potentially look for a sell down to the previous low. So that's Kiwi dollar. Crypto, not over, Adrian. I'm gonna leave crypto at the very end. I'm going over Forex, commodities, indices, and crypto. DKK USD, that's Spanish. This chart DKK USD is pretty much identical to Euro Dollar. Would you not agree? This is Euro Dollar, and if we look at DKK, it's the same chart, right? It's like literally identical. So I'm going to talk about Euro Dollar because it's exactly the same. So if you hear earlier what I think about Euro Dollar, it's the same idea. I can see this as a potential double top here. This is like a rising wedge, a reversal correction that we're used to. So I'll be waiting for an impulsive breakout followed by a correction to look for a sell. Okay, this is exactly the same. If I go to, yeah, it's exactly the same here, right? That's why I went over Euro Dollar here. It's the same idea here, okay? So same high here, same rising wedge, looking for price to break down and continue down lower. Okay, so Euro Cat. I saw some of you guys are more into EuroCat and a bearish move. Yeah, I mean, originally I think some of us were looking at it potentially being long, but it break out, and I guess there's no continuation, bullish continuation to continue. It was trying to form something, but it kind of just pushed down once again. So I saw some of you guys just screenshot in my Telegram. I do agree this could be some sort of bearish move continue. That's certainly a possibility. But it's not like, what do I want to say? It's not something I will take. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not something I will take because if you look at the overall price, like it's dropped down quite a bit already. When we want to enter these kind of positions, when we want to enter a buy or sell, if you notice, we usually want to try to enter at the top if it's possible, or after a strong continuation just finished and we're at the beginning of a potential next round. Whereas I think, just me personally, EuroCAD has already dropped down quite a bit, and there's no really bigger correction. This is certainly a correction, don't get me wrong. This is certainly an impulsive move. This is certainly a correction. It's just that the overall move, in my opinion, has already happened, right? And I'm not sure if this alone can be a move that continue push down to all the way past this previous low, which is probably the target that some of you guys are looking at for this potential Euro CAD move. Okay, so that's just my opinion, of course, and I'm not saying entering here is wrong, right? Remember, we talk about there's no right and wrong. It's just it's all probability. And for me, consider a sell like this probably won't be in my plan to do so. Um, Something like this, I would prefer entering like at the top or something like this while the price is relatively still in the middle of something. Whereas I think this has dropped quite a bit already. It's very similar like Aussie CAD and Kiwi CAD. I know some of you guys are looking for the Aussie and Kiwi CAD, but it's because the overall move to me has already happened, and that's kind of why I'm not too interested in these sell anymore, because the move to me has already pushed down quite a bit, right? There's a few sells that I personally got in, but that's about it because we're approaching to this previous low now, and this almost looks like a reversal correction in the making that can easily continue higher. And same with Kiwi Cat here, right? This almost look like a descending channel almost. That after, if you look at here, the original move has already happened, right? And this is at the low or getting to a low of this area where I did mention this is the low that you want to be watching out for. And we're pretty much sitting at this low now. And this to me almost look like a reversal, a bullish reversal price action rather than continuation. And EuroCAD um, certainly has a bearish kind of price action. Don't get me wrong. It's just looking at overall move, I just think the move has already happened, and this may or may not be enough momentum to continue lower. Okay, so that's my opinion, of course. Okay. Okay, so that is that. So let's move on. Okay, so let's move on to gold. So crypto, guys, I'm gonna leave till the very last. Okay, so I'm gonna leave crypto till the end. I'm gonna finish commodities. I'm gonna do indices, and I'll jump into crypto at the end. Okay, so I will go over BTC, LTC, and all that. I'll go over those, no problem. So let's talk about gold, and I do want to talk about gold because I think this week can be the confirmation soon. If you look at what I've been talking about gold, just zoom out here a little bit. So this is the current price action of gold. We talk about this move to the upside, right? If you guys recall, I mentioned about a potential buy here is valid, right? We can buy to the top here. I think it's very valid, but this is the very crucial area where we need to really watch out for, because we are breaking above the trend line. Remember, breaking above the trend line means nothing, right? We want to see a clear breakout and clear confirmation correction to push the price higher. That is something that's going to be the confirmation, not breaking out of the trend line per se. And I mentioned about the two possible scenarios that can happen here, and I'm waiting for either one to happen, is that we break out of this trend line, or I'm sorry, we broke out of this structure. That's what I meant to say. We broke out of this kind of flag or channel structure. So the logical first option will be looking for a buy, but looking for a buying confirmation here, correction here, some sort of bigger consolidation here. That's going to confirm a potential buy to the all-time high here. That's certainly one option to look for a gold entry. Whereas same thing can happen here where we form an ascending channel pushing up, and instead of forming a continuation correction to go higher, we then get a reversal kind of price action. We push the price right back down, potentially forming a right shoulder or a continuation bearish price action. So making this head and shoulder pattern, we bearishly push out of this ascending channel and then continuation correction and push the price right back to the low before the next up move. And I think, judging by what I'm seeing here, either option is fine, but I'm more leaning towards option 2, where I might see that bearish drop on the price and then correct and then push the price lower. Okay, so don't need to jump here, guys. Over the weekend, I've been getting messages about, should I be buying gold? Should I be buying gold? And I'm like, well, I don't think the buying gold here is ready yet. At least wait for a solid continuation here, right? We don't need to jump the gun. This is not gonna shoot up like this, guys. This is what I keep trying to tell everyone. This will not shoot up like this. So don't have that FOMO where you're gonna get trapped here, because you can easily enter here thinking this is gonna take off. It pushes up a little bit just to push down and then follow my scenario of pushing down. That happens all the time. This is kind of how market punish a lot of FOMO traders, right? It pushes up, maybe breaking some trend lines, or however people think trend lines are resistance. They break the trend line and then they think this is supposed to take off, but just pushes up a little, peg their positions in, and then just to reverse back down. And then that kind of scenario, I hear people complaining or kind of blaming the market, saying the market is scammed. I'm like, come on, like, just because the position, the market didn't play out in your entry, that doesn't mean the market is scammed, right? That's just something we need to work on an emotional side of things. Like, do we jump in the trade because of our fear of missing out, because of our emotion, or because is that because the reason why you jump in, or is it because that technical aspect, right? So really think about that. That's kind of how I got better over the years, is stop blaming the market, stop blaming the broker or your strategy, all sorts of things that people like to blame on, because people don't like to admit they did something wrong. But trading is about admitting if you did something wrong in terms of your setup, in terms of your entry, and then work on it so you get better and better over the years. So my plan, of course, like I said, option 1, wait for a clear continuation and wait for a correction to develop here and continue and finish, so you can enter a potential stop entry order and take the price up. Or the other scenario is we're just going to have a really sharp bearish push down from the price, bearish continuation, and then we push the price right back to the low here, exactly like the same scenario here. Right? These are literally similar, identical price action that we're seeing here. Okay, so that is gold. Do you want to talk about oil for a little bit as well? I think oil could be something here also. I like how there is an impulsive move pushing down, and this is like a higher time frame ascending channel. You can see this is almost like a double top or triple top, how you want to call it. And price failed to break higher, and then a sharp impulse down. So if they can form a continuation correction here, I do think that it's reasonable to be looking for a sell down to the previous low here, and look for a price to react to the bottom here. Okay, so oil looking pretty clean. I do like the oil at least hitting this area if this correction completes. And platinum is another one. I think some of you got, or at least one guy got in platinums. They were asking me about what I think about platinum. And same idea, right? This is an impulsive move. This is a correction in the making. We finally break out of this structure here. Lower time frame continuation. Pretty simple entry if you like these kind of setups and look for a sell down to the previous low. Okay. Platinum has very bearish. Yeah, it's certainly looking like so. I certainly think this is pretty clean to continue even lower. If we get further bearish momentum, further bearish correction down to the low, I think this is pretty clear. I like that this is an impulsive move. This is a correction. We're breaking out now and looking for this low as a potential target, right? And then see how price will do if it can break out and then continue lower. So, but this is always going to be a first target, and we'll see how price react to here, and then take it from there. All right. So gold went over. Yeah, DAX. I'm gonna go over after commodities. So I'll jump into indices after. Any question on commodities here? On gold, on oil, and things like that? I think to me, I'm looking for the sell bias and sell confirmation here. On oil and on gold as well. I want to see, to be honest, I preferably see that bearish move down. I want to see the bearish move down for the price here, be pushed down for the price, form a continuation, head and shoulder as well, top of the overall price action, breaking all of this ascending channel. So all that bearish confluence to me is nice to have. And one more move down doesn't mean the overall price is wrong. It just means that this correction is going on another leg down before the next up move, right? The overall bias of the higher time frame doesn't change, right? Impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse, and we're just getting a larger correction before the next impulse. Okay, so on the higher time frame, nothing changes if we just zoom out how price moves, right? Nothing changes. This is just a massive bullish run, requires a deeper or longer correction before the next up move. Okay, so that's what I see from a mid to long-term outlook, because ultimately I still expect price to finish this structure, finish this correction, and then give us that big upside move if that's going to happen. But first thing first is to see what happened here in the next couple of days. Thoughts on silver? I don't see too much on silver, but I do see more. I'm more leaning towards a sell bias because I like this is more of a corrected price action. This is clearly a ascending channel, and the difference here, people always ask me, well, why isn't this a bullish move? Well, certainly it's moving up, but it's not in an impulsive phase that we're used to, right? This is more moving as a corrective phase, something compared to this is an impulsive phase. There's a difference between this bullish move up and this bullish move up. It's two different scenarios here. Excuse me. This is clearly a more strong bullish kind of price action. It's clearly an impulsive move because the period of fast momentum, whereas this is more corrective, right? And that's why this leads me to believe that we can certainly expect another move down for the price back to the low here. And this is almost similar price action than, I want to say, euro dollar, right? If you guys recall, euro dollar is something like this: impulse correction down, and then it had a big kind of pullback, big consolidation, and then I was looking for a breakdown and continuation. But I don't think this is as good as gold compared to a price action point of view. That's why it's not on my watch list. But I'm more leaning towards a sell bias to me for that potential move to the downside. Okay. So let's move on to indices now. So I talk a little bit longer on things, but let's look at indices. Let's start with Nasdaq. Let's start with Nasdaq here. So Nasdaq, I've been talking about Nasdaq for a potential bearish run. If we look at the overall price, if I can get this. So I talk about Nasdaq here. I like how we've been moving down. We've been not moving down in a super sharp impulsive move like coronavirus, but we are moving down and with corrections. So if you can start from here, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, and I expect this next impulsive move to the downside. So if you look at from a pure structure point of view, after an impulsive phase, naturally price needs to correct, right? So there's a few swing highs and few swing lows already. If we look at closely here, there is a reversal lower time frame correction on the top. So this is almost like a ascending channel, and then price is pretty much pushed down, and then another correction here. Look to see how Monday morning New York session will become. I expect this move to continue going down now, at least to the bottom of this current correction that it's currently in. So I want to see just a little bit of consolidation. I think naturally during the Asia and London session today, we're going to get a consolidation. And then during New York session, we're going to see the move down, pushing down. This is all speculation, of course, but I do like the overall bearish price action. This move has already pushed down, correct, and I expect push down to the low here. Okay. So that's Nasdaq. Let's talk about S&P because they're similar price action. If we look here, is that we have this kind of more of a neutral channel. So after this channel correction, that's the impulsive move. And if we look deeper here, again, there is a few swing highs and few swing lows to make this into a correction here. And it's very similar price action, similar kind of ascending channel moving up. And we're breaking down now. So a little bit more consolidation and then push down will be nice to see. And ultimately, if we zoom out here, we have quite a bit room to the next low or even this low before the correction. So this breakout will be the first significant price action to see, and then look for further opportunity to sell if this correction completes. Okay, what I mean by correction complete is it has to break out and then continuation, right? That's something called complete of a correction. While the price is in the correction, it doesn't mean it can't move down. It certainly can, but if it just move down, hit the low, and then reverse back up, then the correction isn't complete. Okay, so that's S&P 500, US 30. So Dow Jones, similar idea. This move hasn't reached to the top yet, so it's not as favorable compared to Nasdaq or S&P, but it's the similar price action. If we look closely here, this to me is ascending channel. We push the price up. So a push up is not followed by a continuation correction. Instead, it's followed by a reversal impulse. Remember, we always talk about impulse up, not followed by continuation. Instead, it's followed by a reversal impulse and followed by a correction, bearish continuation. Then this has a very good probability of working out because this overall price is showing you that the original bullish bias is no longer having the momentum it has. It becomes a bearish bias to continue lower. So same thing can certainly happen here. This can probably move up here if that's going to, or it's going to be the same as Nasdaq and S&P. We're just going to start forming this type of price action and then correct during these during this Asia and London session time, and eventually push down and then push down lower and break out of this overall price. Okay, so if I have to rank them, I would say Nasdaq first, and then S&P 500 second, and Dow Jones third, for a bearish kind of bias, for a bearish kind of view. Okay, so I will. So that's these U.S. indices, but let's talk about DAX. Someone asked about DAX, right? So German 30, same idea. I want to say it has the similar tendency of what I'm talking about, but it's not as, I want to say it's not as good as the other one because the other one at least has a impulsive move that has already happened. If you look closely, the impulsive move is pretty clear, right? All these ones have the impulsive phrase. Whereas some of these European ones, it's not as clear. Like I want to see the clear breakout from whatever the original correction has, and then forming to something in that sense. I'm not seeing that yet here, but doesn't mean this won't go down or start dropping. It's just from a price action point of view, the other one's a little bit cleaner. So if this can actually push up to the top here, so now we'll have a few swing highs and few swing lows, at least it's going to be a better sell potential or sell bias from this point of view. This can certainly start dropping down, don't get me wrong again, but it's from a filtering process for me, like if I was going to pick the indices to short, I'm not going to short all of them, right? I'm obviously going to focus on the main one or the best scenario one. And to me, the US one is slightly better in terms of price here. So this is DEX, right? If we look at Euro 50, it's going to be very similar, right? Yeah. So this push out is nice, but they're kind of going to recover. So there's really, I want to say there's no correction here. Whereas the other ones that we'd be looking at least the impulse happen and then a correction develop, right? That's the difference here. An impulse happen and a correction develop. Whereas I'm not seeing that here. Like if this is an impulse, well, I'm not seeing a correction here, at least so far at this current time. It certainly can develop into something in the future, but at this moment, I'm not seeing that here, nor I'm seeing here on DEX as well, okay? So those are the indices, at least from my point of view. Any question on these guys before we wrap it up with crypto? Your NAS analysis is very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate your feedback. Natural gas. Oh, I didn't go over natural gas, right? Okay. Let me go back to natural gas after. But indices, guys. Any question on these indices? Nasdaq here, S&P, and Dow Jones here. Like I said, I have a bearish bias, right? My bearish bias, and obviously I need to wait for more confirmation developing. But at least to me, how I'm seeing this, I do have a more bearish bias in my eye here. So I look to see how this move play out. I like this short-term move, right? Even just down to the low here, I think you can easily get pretty good risk reward down to the low here, depending on how you look to enter. So. What time frame? I'm on 1 hour right now, but it's any of the lower time frame. I usually, when I'm talking about lower time frame, it's anything under 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour. That's all lower time frame. So it's at the top left. And I apologize, it's probably small for you to read it, but that's where I'm looking at. It's just the top left here. So that yeah, I'll go over Japan 225 first. I think I talked about this last week. Was I was looking at this bearish move. I think someone asked me about what I think about the bearish potential. At the time when I see this move push down, and I mentioned, well, when I see this move push up, I recall I mentioned like this. This is what I was saying at the time was, when we see a bearish push down, and then if it recovers by a continuation correction to go higher, then this bearish run is no longer valid. But as the week goes on, I think I'm seeing something different now. At least from this point of view, this bullish push up wasn't by a continuation to go higher. I think this is just more consolidation here. Okay, so sometimes we're gonna get price to push down, and then it corrects into something like this, which is kind of what we're seeing here now. So this can certainly push out and then fall into a more bearish price action, and making this channel not valid anymore. We're probably going to see something more as a bearish kind of bias, something like this. And then we broke this previous low now. So this is an impulse, correct, and potentially go down lower. Okay, so this is all speculation, of course, right? Because you can see that this correction is here is because we have a strong bullish bias from strong bullish price action from the top here. So push up this massively here, that leads me to at least have a bias for a long because of this overall bullish trend. But we have to adjust, right? If we cannot marry to analysis if the price action is showing you different. As the days develop, as the time goes on, we have to change our bias accordingly because what was originally a bullish bias may not be the same after a week because the price continued to develop, right? We can't be saying I still have a bullish bias after price breaks down from this kind of a structure and then lower time frame continuation to further push it down. I can't just keep saying that I have a bullish bias anymore because the price clearly is showing us otherwise. So how I would see this, again, because we're breaking this previous low, it looks like this could be a continuation correction. I think this is the previous last low that you want to just kind of keep an eye on is this impulsive move followed by correction can clearly broke this previous low. If it can, then I think any lower time frame correction will further push down the price lower if that's the scenario here. But again, just watching out for this area. That's why patience is really important, because if you ask me, I can argue a bullish bias or I can argue a bearish bias. So who is right and who is wrong? Well, neither, right? Because I might be looking for a bullish bias for a long-term perspective, and the bearish bias is clearly on the short term, and the short-term bearish bias is valid and it's there as well. Okay, so wait for confirmation, right? Wait for the price to give you the confirmation you need in this kind of scenario, okay? So that's Japan 225. How's it going, Andy? Nice to see you. So last round of touch base is there's natural gas, right? Natural gas. What I think about natural gas? Well, I think someone asked me this maybe a month ago or a few weeks ago. I can't really remember. I mentioned about I think he asked me about the buy, and I mentioned about this high here that you need to worry about. If we look at the overall time frame here, this push up followed by this move down and then another push up. But what it looks actually to me is a bigger head and shoulder pattern that is in the making. This to me almost like that right shoulder that is failing to break higher. And then this potentially is going to be a move down from the price. Okay, it depends on what the price will do on the lower time frame here. So you can tell that there is significantly a little bit more bearish price action now. After a impulse move to the upside, remember, we're not followed by a continuation. Instead, it's an impulse up, reversal impulse down. And now if this forms into a bearish continuation, then guess what we're seeing here? We're seeing a lower time frame head and shoulder pattern as a higher time frame right shoulder, right? So multi time frame analysis here. So head and shoulder here on the right shoulder and a larger head and shoulder as well. So if this develop into, this can give you a pretty good idea that the price can have a very good push down from towards the low here. Okay, so that's what I see on natural gas. I do think the bearish bias is there. I just think there should be some sort of confirmation here to confirm the potential sell opportunity. All right. So any question on commodities, on indices and things like that? Any question on any of the pairs, guys? Let me know. If not, we're gonna go to crypto to wrap everything up. I'm not really seeing too much in crypto. I'll be very, very honest. Not seeing too much on crypto, but I'll go over a few, or at least few of the main ones that people are looking at for the week ahead. All right. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. Well, let's talk about actually just looking at Bitcoin. I mentioned about kind of my view on crypto in general. I think last week I mentioned if price break this previous low, and if price break the previous low and form some sort of continuation correction, then we can totally see a bearish kind of bias or bearish point of view. Now, I've been getting asked this question a lot on my Telegram, and just kind of a lot of us are, or a lot of you guys are asking kind of what I see about crypto or in general the market. Is the bearish run over? I think all that is a little bit too early to speculate, meaning that there's just not enough data here to really give anybody a strong be like, okay, I'm gonna start buying here or I'm gonna start selling here. I think there's just too little development from the price. I mean, like if you want to try to squeeze in the structure, sure, there is descending channel or falling wedge, but is there really such thing happening, or are we just trying to make us believe there is a potential buy? Right? There's a two different scenarios here, right? After this such bearish run or bearish move, um, even with a small reversal correction, I don't think that's enough to just justify the buy. I think you need to wait for a lot more development here. Like there's a few possible scenarios that can happen. Like this move can push up, but just to form a bigger correction and then move down after, right? From a price action point of view, that's perfectly valid. Whereas if you think this is a potential reversal structure and then you go all in, I mean, not you now go in and you start buying here, um, I mean, this can certainly start pushing up, but how far can this go? We don't know, right? Is this all it needs to correct and reverse this price action? To me, probably not enough, right? We probably need to see a little bit more developing, some sort of consolidation here, maybe a more parallel channel. We don't know what's going to happen, of course, and then eventually break out and then followed by a bullish run. So it's just too early to speculate anything. Right? I know you probably see all these different charts on social media or different people posting different charts, but I just think it's a little bit too early to speculate, at least from this point of view. Whereas I want to see further development, further price action in this area to give us a potential bias. Right? You see how after this bullish push to the upside, it took this long to correct before the next up move, right? So around this time, it's the same thing around this time now. Do you think people are selling here because they think all this bullish run is over and then they're gonna start selling, right? I'm sure there's people who do that. But if you look at this price action, wouldn't it be the same? Because you have a push down here, just like you have a push up here, and then you can easily fall into a deeper consolidation like so, just like in this scenario, and then eventually resume the bullish run. And in this case, it can easily resume the bearish run also. So that's what I mean by too early to speculate or too early to just jump into a conclusion that this is going to be a buy or sell. Just from experience, after this such a move down, you just naturally needs a little bit longer time to correct, just like this move, right? So that's kind of my opinion on it. I'm not in any positions or anything like that, and I'm not really into shorting crypto. That's just my plan, of course. I think I mentioned that since day one. I'm not really into shorting crypto or selling crypto. It's just not my preference. I'd rather be going long and holding coins or trading or in a buy position or in a long position, rather to be in a short position in this type of scenario. So that is Bitcoin. Someone asked about Litecoin, right? Don't see much in Litecoin here, to be honest. Again, this kind of massive sharp move to the downside. We don't know what's going to happen here, right? It's just going to continue to drop. Eventually, it should form some sort of correction if it's going to go lower, in my opinion, or at least if this is going to turn into a bullish move, then it needs to be consolidated here a little bit longer before the bullish move that can happen, right? So I'm getting these like screenshots from people like, hey Jojo, is this enough? Is this a descending channel to start buying? Honestly, I wouldn't do that, right? Just because this is such a lower time frame move compared to what the higher time frame has already. Look how sharp this move down dropping. Like such a sharp move drop down for the price, like on the higher time frame, like so. Small lower time frame correction here is insignificant in my opinion, at least from my personal opinion. It's like people asking me when I see a 5-minute flag, it's like, can I start buying 5-minute flag? But I'm like, well, look at the overall higher time frame. Look how much the higher time frame has dropped. So even if there's a 5-minute flag that is valid in its own right, but does it make sense for you to risk 1% to buy here where the overall trend has pushed down massively? Okay, so that's about risk management, of course, right? That's about doing back testing to see these kind of things that you see these kind of price action will happen, but early enough or early justified enough for you to start buying here, right? Again, that's up to your plan, right? But me personally, I want to see more development here. That's just going to be safer, right? You don't need to rush these, especially the crypto has been, bearish for the whole last week now. Certainly can continue, right? We always, crypto doesn't always have to go up, right? That's the thing what people make a mistake on this type of things is that it doesn't have to continue going up. It's just like any other market. It can go up, it can go down, right? And if you look at how previous price action has happened, you notice how price pushes all the way up to the top here, and then it started crashing. It's the same idea, right? It crashed all the way down to like $20 when it's at 300. So you can't say it won't happen here, right? We just need to wait a little bit more development to at least confirm a little bit more price from the market to decide what to do. Okay, so that's LTC. I went over Bitcoin. I'm scrolling up to see what everyone is saying. What I consider after this big move down, the bull market is over. I think this same thing as what I mentioned also, right? It's too early to tell. If you want to expect the bull market to over, then again, we expect some sort of continuation, right? Some sort of development of price. I think that's going to confirm or at least prove the bullish market is no longer there, right? So it's all too early to speculate, and I think this is why also the market is like this, because let's face it, there's a lot of retail traders like us who are trading, and there's a lot of bigger whales, right? That they're also, maybe they're not trading, but they're just selling coins or holding coins, doesn't really matter. But the point is the market is moving, and there's a lot to do with liquidity, right? You guys understand with no liquidity, this won't happen. So there's must be a lot of people be buying here while the market is dropping. Think about this, right? There's a lot of buy position in order for the market to drop because it needs liquidity. So the big whale or the bigger players are either shorting or selling while there's a lot of retail trader who are buying, and the retail trader gets liquidated, right? That's just how it works. Remember, the market is zero-sum game, meaning for you to lose, someone has to win, for you to win, someone has to lose, right? So for the market to drop like this, a lot of people lose money here. Okay, so other than that, I can go over a few possibility. I do want to touch base on a few possibility before I wrap up the stream. I mean, I can't really say anything much about a lot of these, but I do want to point out a few. Let me start with Ripple. I want to talk about Ripple because what the price here present here is still give us a little bit of potential bullish, potentially. Okay, so this is an impulsive move down. This could be a larger continuation. We moved down the price clearly, yes, but same thing as here. We push down the price here and then eventually kind of just push up, recover, form a double bottom, and then price start recovering. So I'm not saying in this instant or this next few days that this can happen, but all I'm saying is there's a few of these crypto that could still rise over time, right? So still rise over time, but I want to see further development from the price before consider anything like that. So that's Ripple. I think I do want to talk about Ethereum Cluster. I think this can still be something. Now, if you notice, this massive bullish push up pretty much correct all the way back to like the beginning of the correction, right? So, but the same scenario here is that this is rather corrective price action. This is still an impulsive phase meet by a correction. So eventually, if we can get a strong bullish breakout and then a lower time frame continuation, this has the tendency to push right back to the top here, right? We know how price work in these type of scenarios where an impulsive move on the price is finished by correction, and then that leads to another impulsive move up. Okay. Again, these are all speculation. There's nothing here. It is not a signal to buy here whatsoever. I want to see further development first before consider any entries. And Cardano, I think this is the last one I do want to talk about. I reasonably still have good bias, or at least a good potential bias for Cardano to continue over time. Like I'm not in a trading position of Cardano, but I've been holding Cardano coins since here. So we'll see how it goes, right? If the Cardano breaks this area or this level, then I might even just sell my coins, to be honest. But we'll see how next few weeks kind of develop. Overall price, if I put this to a log position, we've been climbing up pretty fast, right? This is such a sharp, impulsive move. This was the continuation correction that was supposed to go higher, but all the crypto suffered this bearish kind of price action, price market. To me, this is probably a good area to watch out for how the price will behave, or can we start getting a little bit more bullish bias. On the lower time frame, I really don't see much here. I'm not seeing anything like I don't want to even classify this as a descending channel or anything like that. I think the prices still could be dropping and just not much activity here, not much correction even. I'm not even seeing correction. It's just really strong move pushing down for the price, right? So keep an eye on this. I'll set alerts over here. I want to see what price will do in this general area before consider anything. But like I said, there's difference between trading crypto than investing crypto, right? If you're investing crypto, that means you're buying physical coins and you're holding them as an investment. So that way, the management, your entry, your stop loss, or how you manage all that is different. Versus if you're trading crypto, it's all speculation, right? You don't own the physical coins. You might trade with margin leverage, or you might not. That's totally up to you. But you don't own the physical coin. You're buying the direction or the overall price, right? So not in any trading positions, but I do have a few coins I'm holding. We'll see how that goes. All right. Any question, guys, on any of these today? Any question on crypto or any question in general on indices, commodities, or currency before I wrap it up? Matic, I really had the bullish view before, and I was in a trade on Matic. If you guys, for those of you who watch my trade recap, like I was in one of this trade, like this push up, pretty much exactly what I was looking for, but it pushed down right after this crypto, but it did kind of reach the area. I ended up with, I think, 0.5%, if I recall. Yeah, I ended up with 0.5, like this pushes up, but this correction failed to push higher. It had a bearish move down, and this final correction was the confirmation to me, at least the bullish move is no longer going to continue. So I just moved my stop loss up to about 0.5 here, and then take me out for a little bit of profit, and then just slowly push down like so. If you ask me what I think, it's just too early to tell. Like like I said, I don't even want to put this as some sort of structure here. I think this is just a little bit forcing a descending structure in here, whereas the overall move is super bearish on the higher time frame. This is just one big move down from the price. If we even go to 2 hour, like this is just a massive push down. Like I wouldn't even classify this as a structure here. What I want to see is, again, some sort of recover, right? Get a little bit more descending structure or some sort of double bottle. Something here to prove to me that the bearish run is over, and which is not at the current moment. So a lot more patience is needed here to wait for price to at least develop into more bullish price action. Right? It's just too early to tell at this point. Okay. Nasdaq, yeah, I went over Nasdaq earlier. So Nasdaq is, for me personally, I have a bearish bias, right? So my bearish bias is I'm looking for this correction to complete. So we have a few swing highs, few swing low. So impulse followed by a correction, and this is at the top. Looks like there's a reversal price action, and price is breaking down now. So wait for probably a consolidation here during the current Asian and London session, and then likely to move during New York session when New York opens up on Monday morning. Okay. Do you take into consideration market sentiment, greed, fear, index? I'm not sure what you mean, but if you're talking about, I'm not really sure what that means, Adrian. Sorry. What you mean by the market sentiment? If you could give me a little bit more examples, I can probably explain a little bit more. ADA, just went over this. Like I said, I don't have much bias in any of the crypto. I don't have a buy nor a sell in any of the crypto. I just think it's too early to speculate. Too early to start saying this is a buy or too early to say this is a sell. But I mentioned earlier is like this key area or this area is where I will be watching out for what the price will do. If it's going to just continuously fall below this area with the correction, then I might even look to sell my coin, which I got in on somewhere here, I forgot. But this is an area that I will watch out for. But it's like same with every other crypto is I think it's just too early to speculate. It's too early. There's not enough data to be like, here is a buy that's going to take off. This is a buy that's going to recover all the price. I really don't think so. If you ask me, it's not enough. This is all lower time frame price action. Whereas the overall price is pretty bearish after this move down. You can easily just push up here and then form a bigger correction to go down, just like what I explained earlier, like this, right? A bullish push up followed by a bigger correction, continuation. Whereas a bearish move down followed by a continuation means the bearish push down, right? It's the same equivalent thing, right? It shouldn't be like, well, I don't. There's people who just like I refuse to believe crypto will go down. Well, the technical aspect, the chart is telling you that, right? So we um, can't be naive to think the market can go lower. Okay, so all right, guys. So I see what you mean, Adrian. I don't really look at that. Sure. There's a great fear in the market right now. Consider a great buy. Signal in history that way is a good sign. I personally don't look at it that way, but I'm sure there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is what I always tell people is there's no right and wrong in trading, in your strategy, in your style, things like that. If that's what people do look at, or maybe you're interested to look at that way, I think there's nothing wrong with that. All I'm looking at it from just a straight price action point of view. Like there is no bullish price action yet. Doesn't mean it won't develop into some sort of bullish price action in the near future. It's just that if you ask me this current price action to start jumping off the price, I don't think so personally. But it can certainly develop and give the price a few days, few weeks, or a few months to just correct all this bearish move and eventually lead into a bullish momentum. That I do see that happen, but it's just for now to expect this bearish run is over. I don't see it that way, at least from the current price action technical point of view. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up now. So again, this week I'm focusing not much on crypto. I mentioned for commodity, I talk about oil would be potential. Talk about gold as well. I think gold has a lot of potential as well. And I'm just waiting for confirmation. I mentioned the two other options that you can potentially go for. So look for those potentially. Indices, I went over Nasdaq, S&P is going to be my favorite. So S&P looking really clean, and I talked about Nasdaq is also looking really clean as well for that bearish run. And for Forex, we talk about a couple dollar pairs that I'm looking for. Euro dollar, I think pound dollar is going to be my favorite for a potential sell. And talk about all the yen pairs are looking pretty decent for a strength in yen. So bearish move on all these if I develop into. Other than that, those are pretty much my watch list for the week. And obviously, we will have a midweek market update, at least the last one in May. That will be on Wednesday during New York session. So I'll follow up on all these ones during that session and see how the market has developed into. But meanwhile, if you are new, if you're not used to what I'm doing, feel free to rewatch the stream. All the streams are saved on my TradingView page on stream. You can rewatch all the stream here, or you can go on my YouTube channel. I save all my playlists here. All my price action videos are here. So if you're interested, you can learn all my strategy and lessons here. And I'll have a lot of videos on risk management and trading psychology as well, which is really the more important one for a trader's success. And I I show all my updates and notification in my Telegram channel. So all my live stream links, all my trade recap videos, all my analysis, all my educational lessons videos, everything's here. So you're welcome to join for free. You can get all my notification from me. Okay. So I'm gonna wrap it up now, and yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for anyone who are new here, or thanks for anyone who are seeing me many times already. So very happy to meet new people here. Welcome to join me. I do have a group discussion chat that you're welcome to share ideas as well. In our room, I think there's 700 of us that we can share ideas. Everyone can post charts, post analysis. You're welcome to ask questions. If I see it, I'll answer. If other people see it, they'll answer as well. All right. So that is it from me. And last week of May, so let's go get it. Let's go be patient, wait for setups to happen, and look for opportunities for the last week of May. All right. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, and very happy to see all you guys here. And everyone, be safe out there. Those of you who are out there, be safe out there, and hope everyone's family is okay. And I shall chat with you guys all next time. All right. Thank you very much.